What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Shattering the Illusion of False Power. This is a series I created in order to teach people how to defend themselves against narcissistic energy vampires, abusers, clout-chasing imbeciles, sometimes total menaces to society, who refuse all accountability but love to humiliate you, abuse you, take advantage of you, and sometimes in severe cases, steal from you, as well as slander your name in order to destroy you and completely take down your reputation. Boundaries do not exist in the world of a narcissist who is compliant and reliant on seeing you down and out because they require a victim. But in this course, I don't teach individuals how to become victims. I teach them how to fight back and remain in their power at all costs against clout-chasing, energetic imbeciles who sometimes chase clout in order to put you down here and put themselves up here. A reward system built on bad behavior, favored by narcissistic energy vampires and other narcissists who choose to follow their narcissistic, vampiric, and immature, childish antics. Now, usually once we become like 14 years old, we get over these toxic behavioral patterns, but in severe cases, the adult becomes the biggest baby. And sometimes when you're a kid, you're teaching these adults lessons more than they're teaching you lessons. But what happens when, throughout time, as we develop signs of old age, we become more babyfied, narcissistic, immature, and refuse all accountability? We've developed this reward system where it's like the more influence we have over others, we give ourselves permission to become more babyfied and childish. And the worst advice I've ever heard people say is to play in that inner child. What is it they say? Embrace your inner child. Yeah, let's play that card so that we can give the narcissist a reward system to be immature, childish, and refuse all accountability for the mistakes they make in life. But whenever I make a mistake, I have to own up to it. When somebody else makes a mistake who has a position above me, they shift all accountability in order to point fingers, blame, shame, and they shame their supposed victim into becoming somebody who is a villain. But if somebody is victimizing you, you're not a villain, and you don't have to be a victim in their world, which they require. Remember, they're compliant, reliant, and totally dependent on you being their victim because that's how they get their energy. But what if we said, no, we're going to hold you accountable for every action you do? And that's why I created Kimberly Epphones cookbook, and I teach people how to remain in their power on this series, Shattering the Illusion of False Power. The cookbook is made up of 5 steps: clapbacks, poetic justice, psychological warfare, self-sabotage, and comparison. Today we're going to look at specifically how psych warfare works its way into the narcissistic boundary lackers playbook. And it's not just limited to psych warfare. The other steps included in the playbook are self-sabotage and poetic justice. The self-sabotage and the poetic justice are steps that are going to turn out in your favor, but the psychological warfare itself is a series of unfortunate situations just based off of the narcissistic boundary lackers playbook, where they start getting really creepy, weepy, and wounded as you remain in your power at all costs. And they look like they're getting a little bit cheated, depleted, and defeated. And the more they start to feel this way, they'll start to look sad and they'll start to cry for things like materialism and validation. It's like a little kid going into Toys R Us and he's like, "Mommy, please buy me this next toy." And she's like, "No, son, I can't buy you that toy." And he's like, "Where? It only costs $700. Where?" And that's how a lot of these people are nowadays. Okay, so let's get into the narcissistic boundary lackers playbook. You have to engage in psychological warfare with a narcissist because they don't understand boundaries. And you have to let them know you don't want to speak to them, you don't like them, and you will never speak to them again. And when you enforce these boundaries, they will become aggressors. Because remember, the narcissist has always been the aggressor, they just didn't know you had it in you to enforce those boundaries. They will start taking pages out of the narcissistic boundary lackers playbook because they're creepy, weepy, cheated, depleted, and defeated. And they're reliant and compliant on you being a victim, which you refuse the victim role because you remain in your power at all costs. But the psych warfare is letting a narcissistic energy vampire know that you will never speak to them. You don't really give a shit how they feel about you. You don't give a shit if you're popular with them. You don't give a shit if their friends like you. And you don't care what they're saying behind your back, especially since you're not present to defend yourself against whatever they're saying behind your back. And they may start to do things to intentionally invade and cross your boundaries. So even though you did things to intentionally hurt me, and I'm not sitting around all day thinking about you, and I close that cycle, and you cross my boundaries in order to stay attached because you're a little bit depleted, cheated, defeated, a little bit weepy, creepy, and disturbed, and wounded. You don't give a shit that the narcissist was hating on you. That's not what it's about. It's about your boundaries, and they don't give a shit about your boundaries. They'll be saying a million different things about you behind your back, and you just don't care. But in severe cases, when it recruits people to hold back your opportunities in business or new friendships or new love or anything like that, you really do need to get a little more aggressive with your approach. The narcissist does understand that you will never speak to them again, so they'll try to use other people in order to create these self-fulfilling one-sided ultimatums, whether they use money or promise or whatever the case. So they may start to stalk, lurk, creep, and weep on your social media, or in other cases, they personally invite themselves to your place of residence. Yeah, that's a thing. And they make phone calls to your house, speak dirt on your name because it's like, ooh, look at me. I'm a pleasure-seeking menace. Because if I make fun of you over the phone, it must hurt your feelings, right? Oh, aren't I great? I'm powerful now, huh? Okay, we understand you require a victim. You're a narcissist. Because there's people who do the most to invade our privacy, cross boundaries, and make sure to make us as uncomfortable as possible. So we must be a victim, right? I'm hurt. Not exactly, but here's where it gets interesting. The narcissist does all these things, and they're wasting time, they're wasting energy, money. Do I look sad to you guys? Am I hurting? Am I living my life worried about somebody who does not want good things for me? No, I am not. I'm just living my life because that's what I'm doing. And I'm not obsessing over others, but imagine somebody who obsesses over you and doesn't want good things. The therapy office is going to be jam-packed for individuals like that. So a narcissistic control freak who invades my boundaries cannot bother me. In severe cases, when they invite themselves over, since I know that they steal things out of my house, I will take the most important valuables, put them into the room I'm about to go in, and I will remain in the room as long as I know the narcissistic energy vampire who refused my boundaries invited themselves to my place of residence, since I don't want to see them and I will never speak to them again. But as they invite themselves and they come into my place of residence, when I separate myself from the room, any lies they go behind my back to say about me are not going to hold up unless they can get me on video camera doing something. And they won't do that. Do you know why? The reason they won't get me on video camera doing something is because even if you hired somebody who looked like my twin to create a situation to make it look like something it was not, I would be in another room. And it's not really up for debate, but I would be in another room. So I'm not speaking to the narcissist. And whatever plan they devised before they came over to create more plans to continue this cycle of destroying me was an epic fail, kind of like their hairdresser who went out of business 5 years ago. So we're engaged in the psych warfare whether we like it or not, because there's a simple-minded pleasure seeker equivalent to having a pea-sized brain. And they operate under one simple-minded basic subconscious. It's a reward system built on being dumb, unintelligent, and unwilling to resolve conflict through making positive changes. But they couldn't let go, and their burdens are theirs to carry regardless. But now we're going to have some fun, alright? Let's get into this. The self-sabotage regarding the narcissist is that if their routine revolves around doing everything just to try and get your attention, get under your skin, or make themselves feel powerful, it's going to come back to them hurting them more than it hurts you. And it's a problem for them. It affects their work performance, their family life, it affects their social circle, it affects the community they live in, everything. And you're just gonna make yourself look bad, yet you keep going. And I'm not the one who's hurting. You know, I'm not the one who's making myself look bad, even if sometimes I joke around and maybe make a fool of myself just for comedy videos. Somebody who does this just to be the narcissist, blame, shame, and accountability shift in order to make you a villain for their abuse is somebody who's going to look bad, and there's no denying that. And it's like, you look ridiculous. And that's what the self-sabotage is all about. But the poetic justice following the self-sabotage is, how is this going to affect their reputation? Because they wanted to smear your name and your reputation. Will they still get equal business partnerships? Will people still want to work with them? Are they going to start losing finances because they wanted control over yours? Are they going to have a different living arrangement because they wanted to see you homeless? And the psych warfare you may face now, but you never really know what tomorrow holds, right? Not everybody supports me, and I'm cool with that. Not everybody supports narcissists who villainize me, and I'm cool with that as well. But what if people did support me and the narcissist found this out and they said, oh shit, that's another series of mental aerobics where they go through the motions of feeling cheated, depleted, and defeated because they're weepy, creepy, a little bit weird, and they require severe, severe medication as well as severe, severe therapy. And may God have mercy on their soul. Until next time, it's Kimmy Baby signing out.